You know that music. It is time once again for bingo. We've got a brand new set for you today, and you've got hopefully a brand new card in your hand. You can have read the instructions on the back of your card. You understand how this works. Good luck.
Mezzo piano means kinda softly because mezzo means kinda and piano means softly. This is the great composer Scott Joplin, sometimes classified as a classical composer, but usually classified as a jazz composer. An accent looks like a little V on its side above or below a note, and it just means to punch that one a little bit harder, make it a little bit louder. This whole note is worth 4 beats. A measure is just a chunk of beats within a song. Most songs have at least 8 or more measures. Some of them have up to like hundreds of measures. This is the great, the amazing Bach. If 2 of the same notes have a swoopy line over or below them, that means they're tied together. You're only supposed to play the first one and just hold it out through the second one. Since the spaces of the treble clef spell the word face, F-A-C-E, this one is on the bottom, which makes it the F of face. The one, the only Mr. Beethoven. An accidental is any flat or sharp or natural sign, anything telling you to play something different than what is normal for the song. The bottom line on the bass clef is always going to be a G. A repetition is any part of a song or solo where you're just repeating some little group of notes. This is a bass clef sign, also known as an F clef. It is the graph for all of the lower notes. A repeat sign is 2 dots stacked on top of each other that tell you to go back and play it all again. Since forte means loudly, fortissimo means really loudly. It's usually indicated with 2 F's next to each other. The second space up on the treble clef is an A because all the spaces spell the word face, F-A-C-E. Accelerando means to gradually get faster. Mezzo forte means kinda loud because mezzo means kinda and forte means loud. That's a quarter note, which is worth 1. This counts as an E in the treble clef or the bass clef. That's an 8th note, which is worth 1/2. Eight VB means you're supposed to play that section 1 octave or 8 notes lower. This is on the first little ledger line above the bass clef, which means this is middle C. That is the incredible jazz pianist Bill Evans. The bass clef is the graph for all the lower notes. This note is on the top line of the bass clef, which means it's an A. Since the spaces of the bass clef spell the word ace, A-C-E, this is the second one up, which means it's the C of ace. 3 is the value of any dotted half note or dotted half rest. That note is on a space below the treble clef, which makes it a D. This dotted quarter rest is worth 1.5 beats. The second line up in the bass clef is always going to be a B. This counts as an A in the treble clef or the bass clef. Pianissimo means really quiet, and it usually has 2 P's in a row. 1 P is quiet, 2 P's is pianissimo, really quiet. 8 VA means you're supposed to play it 1 octave or 8 notes higher. This is a quarter rest and it's worth 1. The third space up on the bass clef is always going to be an E because the spaces spell the word ace. A-C-E. This is the third one. It's an E. This counts as a D in the treble or the bass clef. Anytime we have the treble clef and bass clef showing up together, it's called the grand staff. Any quarter note or quarter rest is worth 1 beat. It kind of looks like a B, but it's actually a flat sign, and it means to play the note slightly lower. This rest only has 1 notch or 1 flag on it, which means that it's an 8th rest worth 1/2. You get to mark it off if you have an F in the bass clef or the treble clef. That's a quarter note, which is worth 1. The bottom line on the treble clef is always going to be an E. The spaces of the bass clef spell A-C-E, ace, and this is on the very bottom one, so it's the A of ace. There's the granddaddy of them all, Louis Armstrong. Staccato is a dot above or below a note, and it just tells you that you're supposed to disconnect that note from the other ones around. Don't hold it out a long time.
A decrescendo looks like a sideways V going from the big end to the little end, showing you that you should have a lot of sound going to a little sound. That rest looks like an upside down hat, which means it's a whole rest, worth 4. Forte means play it loudly. The third line up on the treble clef is always a B. The fourth line on the treble clef is always going to be a D. This half note is worth 2 beats. A bar line is an up and down, a vertical line that separates measures. The third line up on the bass clef is always going to be a D. This half note is worth 2 beats.
This note is on the space above the treble clef, making it a G. This is the first ledger line below the treble clef, which makes it the all-important middle C. This counts if you've got a C in the treble clef or in the bass clef. BPM stands for beats per minute, and it's the tempo marking for any metronome. The spaces of the treble clef spell the word face, F-A-C-E, and this is the third one up, so it is the C. Tenuto means to hold the note for the full value, maybe a little bit longer. The second line up in the treble clef is always going to be a G. The time signature is what tells us how many beats are in each measure and what kind of note we're counting with. It looks like fine, but it's pronounced fine, and it means it's the end, the finish. Four time is the time signature where we can have up to 4 quarter notes in each measure. This note is on the space above the bass clef. It's one note below middle C, which means this is B. This counts as a B in the treble or the bass clef. Mezzo piano.
If you got a lot of those, that's all that we're calling for this month. So make sure you fill out all your card. You can go back and do the whole video again if you think you might have missed one. I hope you win.